for giving such a gracious introduction to the audience. Okay, so before we start with our actual talk, I would like to share a kind of, I would say that evergreen reminiscences which keeps on haunting my mind many a time. So I believe it was almost 2 years ago. It was a Monday morning, the first session. Of course, I was a bit excited to go to the class because on that day, there was a topic called transaction analysis. Of course, for the postgraduate students. I went to the class. The class was scheduled between 9 to 10:15. I went, and of course, I lost myself while teaching there. And the students also seemed to be so interesting. They were all just gawking at me, staring at me. So that class went on. At 10:15, my class concluded. And when I was coming out, there was a smile on my face. A smile of achievement, a sense of fulfillment. When I was coming out, I saw just one girl. She was just kneeling against the wall. And she was talking to a friend. She was saying, "Arey yaar, subah sula diya." Almost I was at the heights of joy. Almost at the heights of joy after listening to this. Just went up. So I believe like why I told you this. Because for the teachers, it has become a very biggest challenge, one of the major challenges for us nowadays, to give that enriched learning experience for the students. It has become a major challenge. Yes, the major challenge is again, of course, we never used to find this kind of major challenge in our classes, just 1 or 2 decades ago. Yes, nowadays we are facing that. Again, because of millennials. I believe we all might be having that experience of dealing with these learners. So today we are going to discuss about, how do we deal with this millennial group, okay, through the smart communication. So, shall we start?
Yes.
So these are the things which we are going to discuss today. We'll just try to understand what are actually the behavioral traits of millennial learners, okay, in the classroom. And we also define the concept of smart communication in millennial class, and finally, how do we adopt certain strategies, okay, to connect the learning with the students. So these are the focal points of our talk today. So who are millennials? What is smart communication? So what sense does it make? So the neuroplasticity and adult learning, and last, andragogy and pedagogy. Right. So I'm also a corporate trainer, okay, like associated with various consultants, providing corporate training to people. So whenever we discuss with those people, particularly HR people, it's quite astonishing to know from them that most of the outgoing students, they are unemployed. So the skills, of course, no way, of course, it actually meets the organizational goals or objectives. And apart from that, we have seen, of course, that even the business world, particularly global level, lots of transformations are happening, lots of changes are happening. So whatever the business models we find today, so those business models will not be applicable after a few days or months or years. Okay. So again, it has become, because of that, of course, like lot of research, particularly like consultants, industrial consultants, they have done a lot of research, okay, on what basis, of course, these transformations are happening. And based on that, they came up with a concept called VUCA world. VUCA. It stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity. Okay, so whatever we learn today, so that may not be applicable tomorrow. So that is the business conditions, the corporate world outside today. Okay, and as like a lot of transformations are happening in that industrial world, obviously the pressure will be more on the human resource, right? The expectations from the human resource becomes very huge, right? And once that expectations of the human resource becomes very huge, who's going to bear that weight? It's again the academic platforms. That is, they'll have a lot of expectations from the academic portals, a lot of expectations, particularly in terms of the cognitive, behavioral, or functional abilities, right? So, of course, if we take one more thing, yes, obviously, like when we go to any classroom, particularly postgraduate classes, we come across, of course, various kinds of people. It doesn't mean that we come across various kinds of physically oriented people. We're not talking about that, but the cognitive styles, the receptivity levels actually differ from student to student. So this is what I keep on telling my students, that the teaching profession is the most challenging profession, because I'm here and 50 people the other side. So I should ensure that I connect cognitively, emotionally, okay, to all the different people. So that becomes one of the major challenges for the faculty, not only in India but across the world. Yeah, so I was talking about the cognitive styles. Okay, I think you all might be aware that whenever you go to class, so we don't find, of course, 100% attention from all the students. Absolutely not. So obviously, the percentage would be very, very less, probably 10 or 20%. Almost 80% of the students, of course, they are disconnected from the learning process. So whom to blame? Again, that becomes a very big question mark for us. So these are the major questions, of course, that we often come across, and of course, even much of the research studies focused on. So, are these millennials really serious in their studies? Are these millennials, they really have any kind of values in their life? Are they really intelligent, or their IQ levels are very low? Okay. So all these actually major questions, of course, often come to us, but unfortunately, we become many a time biased. We become many times biased because always there is a comparison between us and that millennial group, and finally, the inference that we come up with. Yes, we were very serious in our classrooms when we were studying, and those students, they are completely disoriented and they are no way, serious as compared to us. So that's what the final conclusion we come with. Okay, and once if we go through all the learnings, of course, we will be able to decide what exactly these millennial learners are. Now, let's have a contemplative, introspective journey into their psyche. Ready for the journey? Yes. Yeah. So how do we define these millennials? Millennials are those people, of course, millennium, something that started, that actually heralded our new millennium, that is from 2000, if I'm not wrong. Right? So the people, those who are born, of course, the chronological thing might vary, because some people they say that 2-3 years or 5 years difference we often find, of course, across the world. Still, we are definitely unable to determine from which age it started. But yes, now according to the common consensus, we say that from 1981 to 2000, who were born, in this age, they are called millennials. Okay, and the generation, just before that, it was called Gen X. Of course, we also call millennials as Gen Y. Okay. So I think that what's the actually major difference between these two generations. Before that, let me tell you one more thing. One of my recollections. I often, of course, interact with the senior faculty members, and of course, the retired people, like particularly general managers or executive directors from various banks and from various industries. Okay, and often, I interact with them, and yeah, it's out of inquisitiveness, I ask them, sir, of course, it was almost 1970s, okay, when they were adult. So, how did you spend your time during your leisure time? And one great soul said, once in a month, whenever I get, we get salary on that day with my family. He said some place near to that Majestic or something. He said, we go there and we used to have masala dosa. That's what their social life was. Okay, and they hardly had any such kind of social commitments or social engagements during that. But okay, of course, we can't blame them because that's how they were. Okay, because they did not have any such kind of options or any other means, okay, to get into such kind of social platforms. But when you take this millennial group, yes, I think it's something self-explanatory. They have access to all kinds of resources, all kinds of technological resources, or all kinds of social platforms, and of course they are quite busy with lots of social engagements. Okay? And obviously, when they are exposed to such kind of conditions or situations, a lot of changes, do happen in their behavioral patterns or cognitive patterns. Right? So, and again, you can also see that yes, this generation is greatly influenced by the computer's technology. Do you all agree? Yes. Right then, so let's just check with what could be the behavioral traits of this paper. I would say that it's quite contrasting to the behavioral traits of the previous generation. So, the first thing, they're quite audacious. So, see, audacity is something like they don't fear. They are fearless. So, whenever I think about this, it reminds me of one of the poems of, I forgot, to Ithaca. Ulysses, right? Ulysses. I think you all know that, how Ulysses, he took up the journey into different lands, exploring the people, not exploring of course, amassing the wealth, okay, very bravely, and finally of course he also says that, so wherever I go I come back to that, right? So such kind of fearless people these people are, okay, so they are ready to take any kind of challenges, they are the very brave souls. So they are the digital natives. So we actually at our campus, we have one method called reverse mentoring. I believe you might have heard of this. Often we go with mentoring. So what we feel, yes, this is the student community. These people do not know anything. Yes, we need to teach them. We need to guide them, right? And many times, we also come across a lot of resistance from the other end. Okay. At our campus, what we do is we do reverse mentoring wherein the students train the faculty. Students train the faculty, particularly in the area of technology.
Is it a part of your regular classroom scenario?
No, it's something like added by just now.
So they can
probably
volunteer or something? Students can volunteer for that?
Yeah, they volunteer. Yeah, they volunteer. Probably once in a month, of course, we schedule such programs. So wherein the students, of course, they actually volunteer, and of course, there's some selection process there. So based on that, yes, all the faculty of our department, we go there, and of course, they start training us. Okay, and we become students, and of course, with lots of curses on them. That too in the afternoon session. Okay, unable to sleep. Of course, I think that would be the, I would say the best situation for those students to take revenge on us. Yes. Okay. But yes, we actually admire the way actually they teach. Sometimes we feel like following their methodologies. Okay, so everything is of course there in that terms. Everything is student driven. Okay. So why I told you this, yes, across the world, if you look into this kind of generation, yes, they are digital natives. They are far ahead than us. Okay, so often I keep telling my students, see, if I'm going on a bike in the 100cc bike in 40 speed, those people, they take higher booster, they go like this. But unfortunately, we can't accept it, we can't digest it. Right? Yes. Okay. So they are quite impetuous. So see, they are actually very stimulative and very, very impulsive in nature. So what actually we do is that we take a lot of time, of course, a lot of thought process has to go in, okay, before we implement certain things. But those people, they are so much inquisitive and they are so impulsive that they are always ready to implement the things. So they are very dynamic in nature. Yeah, that's true. We ourselves, what we have done is, we have built some kind of a boundary around us with lots of restrictions. But whereas these students do not have any such kind of self-restrictions. They are actually something like, often I would say that, yes, the people should be like, usually the people should be like water. They should be like water. So wherever they go, of course, whatever the condition they are in, they just adapt themselves to that conditions. So they are like water. Okay? But yes, they are very dynamic. So they are very, but of course, this we cannot accept from them. So they are very liberal in terms of punctuality. So can we accept this? But absolutely, there are a lot of academic restrictions that yes, they have to be punctual. But that's where, of course, some kind of the disconnect happen between the teacher and the students. Okay, but that's how they are, engineered. So yes, I think this we have to be very much aware. Of course, this millennial self-concept is much researched on across the world. Okay, it's not only millennials, I would say that yes, it might be the self-concept of almost all the people who are living in the world. Okay, so people all have that some kind of fears, and they also have some kind of feeling for themselves. Okay, many times in the classroom, it does happen that some of the students, they never come out of their inhibitions. Okay, yes, they want to express, but they restrain themselves. I believe that. Yeah. So they actually constrain themselves, okay, and they never express. But yes, they have abundance of things to express, but they never express. But what we do is, we just label them, saying that they are quite arrogant. Okay, they are timid and do not have anything to express. So like that, yes, we do have lots of labels. Okay, but unfortunately, we never make an attempt to understand that why or what something stopping them to express themselves in the classroom. So this is what the reason is. Okay, we'll get the second one. They all have the fear of being ignored, humiliated, or rejected. See, actually, there are two things. I think you all must be aware of this: ideal self and the real self. Right? Usually, in the ideal self, we have a kind of feelings for ourselves that this is what I am. Okay. The real self is what exactly you are, what naturally you are. So many of the students, what happens, they are in their ideal self. They have their own opinions or ideas for themselves. And in the class, what they do, they feel that if they express what they feel that, yes, my real self might come out. The people may not accept my real self. So that's the reason, what they do is they try to cocoon themselves in that piece. Okay. So again here, we the teachers, in our academic classes, are we ready to accept those indifferences, or are we ready to accept their actually deficiencies, and instead of course blaming those indeficiencies, can we appreciate them? Can we motivate them? So of course I am very proud to say that in my classroom, this would be my first instruction to the students on the first day. I tell them that whatever you express, however you behave, okay, whether you're right or wrong, it will be taken. It will be taken, and at any cost, no harm would happen to you, to your psyche. So this is the assurance, like I give it to the students, so that they will not show such kind of safety behaviors in the classroom. Okay, but yes, of course, it has worked a lot for me, because our classrooms are completely, something like student-centric. It's driven by lots of other activities. Okay, so we want them to come out of their comfort zone. Okay, so obviously, like if we take care of that, if we actually assure them that kind of safety in the classroom, yes, obviously the learning experience would be something very different for the students. The next one, of course, everyone wants to feel important, right? Yes, obviously it's again the human nature that we believe, whenever, of course, I think you all might have experienced that whenever we watch any movies, we put ourselves, in the position of the hero or heroine. Yeah, that's true. We all feel like that. Okay, and if somebody says that you're not that, we'll not be in a condition to accept. Okay, so obviously the students, yes, particularly these millennials, they have this tendency. Okay, so they want to feel something very important, very significant, and they want to be liked by other people. But once if you make them, believe that yes, you are very significant in my class, and you are actually liked by me, and you are liked by all, yes, their expressions, their gestures will be something very different and constructive. Yeah, this one, of course, we're talking about the smart communication. Right. I think we have heard of effective communication. And yes, we have heard of communication. Yes, we know the difference between smart communication. Obviously, smart and effective communication, of course, both are something synonymous in nature. So when you take communication, it's something what we express. Of course, you all are masters of it, so I don't need to explain that. See, communication is something just like you convey your feelings, your thoughts, or your ideas to somebody. So then what is effective communication? It's something, see, this is what communication stops. You communicate whatever you want to, you convey whatever you believe. So this is what we the teachers, we have been doing since the time immemorial, like when we go to the classroom. We go with lots of abundance of knowledge, and of course we put everything there. And it's something, whether they have received that or not, that is something immaterial for us. This is what the communication we have been following. But yes, it is very much essential nowadays. It's very crucial for us. Not just communication now, but we have to go with the smart communication to our classrooms. So let me define, of course, this is my words, what exactly does smart communication mean. So it's not just conveying your ideas or your thoughts or beliefs, but you also re-engineer your communication pattern in such a way that you also get the deserved feedback from the receiver. So this is what you call smart communication. Okay. And of course, I also take the sales classes. Okay, so for various companies. Okay, so this is what I tell them. So when you go for any kind of sales call, it's not that you just explain about the product or services. Okay, that is just communication. The smart communication comes in whether that particular that customer, whether he bought your product or services or not. So after all, we the faculty members, we all are salespeople when you go to a classroom. I believe you agree with me. Yes, whether the students bought our ideas or not, that is very important. Right. Let's have the visuals here. is what of course we the teachers do. Yes, I think the best example is what I said at the beginning. When you go to the classroom, yes, we go with lots of examples. To be frank, we are ideal teachers. We love our job. We are passionate teachers. We go with the same passion to the classroom with lots of jnana, right? Because even I've seen, of course, many of the faculty members, if they want to take 1 hour class, they prepare 3 to 4 hours. They actually need volumes and volumes of material related to that particular concept. Okay? And they go to the class. Do we really think that the students would take all the knowledge that we give it to them? That is again big question mark. So one of my intellectual friends, he was saying, in terms of knowledge, the teachers may not be the best resource, because already Google Mata is doing its job. The students have access to abundant of knowledge, okay, on the internet. They can actually get whatever they want. Sometimes, I actually get confused, because sometimes the students come and ask me certain questions. I get confused because I had never come across such concept. But through Google, they have got that concept, right? So, in terms of knowledge, yes, we cannot. To be frank, we cannot compete with that Google method, right? Again, we get disconnected, in terms of sharing gyan with the students. And not only that, we have one more major challenge. It's not only about the availability of learning resources, but the people have different cognitive styles. Yeah. Sometimes, I teach certain concepts with songs. They sing. After, several months, if I ask them about what they do is, they remember only that song. The time when they recollect that song, they could recollect the concept. Okay, so like this, so every individual, they have their own learning preferences in the classroom. So that would actually, once if we can understand those learning preferences, yes, it will be very easy for us to give them what they want. So otherwise there will be a lot of resistance from their end. Okay. So let's move on. Okay, of course I think you can just refer Bayro. There's something, Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. I think you might be aware of this. You can do some research on this, and of course it will be a kind of value addition for you when you go to the classroom. I believe we all have heard of pedagogy. A lot of research is being done on that, pedagogy. What is beyond that? Yeah. So that's what we call it as andragogy. Okay, so pedagogy is something, it just says, okay, how you have to go and teach them. Okay. And moreover, pedagogy, I have been listening to this term since my childhood days. I think even my grandpa was also listening to this pedagogy. Okay. And now the question mark now is, are we teaching the same grandpas in our classrooms? So we should also see that, are we evolving in that area? Okay, have we evolved from pedagogy to something else? Okay, so that's what this andragogy answers to our questions. Okay, so of course both pedagogy and andragogy, of course, they are derived from the Greek words. See, peda, which means child. So how do you drive that child's learning? That's what we deal with the pedagogy. But whereas andragogy, a man, adult. How do you drive that adult learning process? So that is what we discuss in andragogy. Okay, there's one more thing. Pedagogy. Okay, no, all these are not alien words, huh? So this is from here only, okay? So see, first, yes, andragogy, and of course later on, again we evolved into kind of pedagogy. Okay. See, andragogy is something that deals with, I would say that it's something a kind of student-centric process. So wherein student is the center of the learning. And whereas we, the teachers, we just take off seat. Okay. Whereas in pedagogy, we just come front. Unfortunately, students go back. Okay. So here in the andragogy, yes, we make the student as something, the central thing, and of course, we try to design certain activities which would help that student, okay, independently, okay, to develop the skills, required skills. Okay. Whereas in pedagogy, of course, in a higher learning process, we have this pedagogy. Okay, so let me just share one more thing. Yes, at our university, we have tied up with almost all the banks across India, and where they send their students, okay, means like already recruited people to our campus to pursue their postgraduate diploma in banking and finance. Okay, and almost they had to spare those people for 1 year on our campus. So once it so happened that HDFC people, I believe, around 3 years ago, they said we cannot spare our human resource almost for 1 year because of many other business constraints. So can you deliver that 1 year program in some other mode? So then came this concept of course, we did not invent this concept. Okay, of course we borrowed this concept, pedagogy. So wherein this is like the young bankers, they work from 9 to 6, of course, in their respective branches, and after 6, they learn through some, through online sources. Of course, through we have a separate platform, Edunex platform, so where they will actually pursue the course. Okay, and of course, here we do find some very minimal, teacher intervention in their learning process. So what we do is we just give some kind of resources, and of course the students can actually negotiate like how they want to learn. They have flexibility of time, and whenever they want they can read, and whenever they want to take exam. But yes, they have within a specific point of time, yes, they should complete the course. Okay, so and of course even this kind of learning process also emerging nowadays, and we call it as pedagogy. This one keyword here, yes, is something called net-centric query. So recently, of course, we did research almost 1,500 adult learners. Like, how do they want to learn? Okay, and of course, we had 4 dimensions of their. First one, it was something that the first dimension was work independently, and of course each dimension had almost 5 items. Okay, on the like a scale of 1 to 5. Okay, so in the first dimension you can see here that almost 3.1 to 3.6% of the the rating, they said that they want to work independently. So that's what made them interesting. And then we can see here, yes, most of the students now, the adult learners, they have accessibility to the computers and as well as their IT or tech savvies. And again here, yes, they all consider internet as the most effective tool. Okay. But here, the most embarrassing thing is only 2.3 almost they said they want to work with teachers. Have we scared them? No, it's not that we have scared them, but they seek some kind of independence, in the process of learning. Okay. So let me quote one more example. Yes, we have some concept called, of course we have also adopted this. We have actually the learning process happen in 3 stages in our classrooms. We call this one as pre-class, reading, in class, and post-class. So before the students come to the class, Usually, like, we do not teach much of the theory to them. So whatever the theory is there, yes, they have to learn, okay, before the class. And after that, they come to class well prepared. And there, of course, we try to elicit, the things from them. So where they come up with some kind of presentations, some kind of group discussions, something based on that concept. Okay, and of course, in our university, it's a sin if a faculty talks more than 30%. And of course, we also have regular checks, quality checks in our classroom. So the quality team will be frequently visiting our classrooms. Okay, so they will be, of course, rating us. Okay, the first thing is how much time the faculty spoke in the classroom. So if you have spoken more than 30%, mail comes to us from the quality head. Why did you speak for more than 30%? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, because here we are in an era wherein we are dealing with the millennials. Yes, actually they do not want so much of knowledge from your side. So they are actually looking at some kind of facilitators wherein we facilitate their learning in the classrooms. Okay, and of course this is also one of the things which substantiates the fact that yes, they are not looking for teachers. Okay, I hope you all agree with me.
Yes.
I hope I'm making the teachers' work something easy, right? So now you're thinking, oh, yes. I don't need to speak for the entire hour, so but
No, actually, we are wondering if we will be speaking the whole.
no, ma'am. Actually, that's the most difficult task. Actually, the most difficult task for us.
Continuous 3 years,
Ah.
3 years.
Non-stop.
Yeah, actually, there are two difficulties actually we have in that. See, the first thing is, yes, it drains our cognitive energy like anything. While observing the students, while evaluating them, okay, it drains our cognitive energy. First thing. Second thing, in case if the class is scheduled in the afternoon, we just keep drinking water in the classroom. Correct? Of course, then we start empathizing with the students. But yes, actually this works a lot. Okay, this works a lot. Okay, I think you can also try out in our classrooms. But yes, not only here, of course, at our university, but across the world you take. Okay, you go to Harvard University, Stanford, or whatever the reputed universities across the world you go. This is what happens. Faculty doesn't speak much. But I believe you are experts in Bloom's taxonomy. Okay. So, in some research, of course, we found, of course, we are just making some kind of comparative study mediated by Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so in that, this is where pedagogy was in most of the cases. So pedagogy, of course, it started, okay, just the stage 1 and stage 2, and majority of the times it stops at comprehension, wherein we make the students comprehend what we teach in the classrooms, right? Whereas if you take the strategies of andragogy, which could fulfill all the stages of this Bloom's taxonomy. So it started evolving from the stage of remembering, and of course it went up to the creation, wherein we enable the students to create of their own. In 10:30. Okay, so we will complete it a bit fast. Okay, so neuroplasticity and andragogy. I believe some psychology professors are here.
Actually, they were supposed to be here, but they had got invitation.
Okay, ma'am. Right. So here, neuroplasticity. Okay, I'll just explain it in very simple terms. So I believe we all know about one statement. we cannot teach the old dogs new tricks. Do you all agree with that? Okay. No, actually now we have started, completely disagreeing with that statement. We have started disagreeing with that statement. Because earlier, yes, we had an assumption that after 17 or 18 years, your brain, that is the receptivity or the cognitive receptivity of your brain, it starts diminishing. It ceases to evolve. Okay? So till the age of 17, 18, whatever you have learned, yeah, that is for you. And after that, no, nothing new. And of course, it was so much, deep-rooted, in our minds that even companies, organizations, they stopped hiring the people, those who are above 30, 35. Okay? But yes, now the pleasant thing is that the research has proved that the brain, it keeps evolving, okay, and it never stops, receiving something, new signals, okay, till the end. So this is what we call, this concept, what we call it as neuroplasticity. Okay, see, plasticity is something that can expand, right? So here, even the brain also actually has that ability of expansion. See, brain expansion is not the physical brain expanding like this, okay? Not the physical brain, but the neural circuits that we find in the brain, or neural networks, it keeps actually expanding. Okay, and of course we have billions of neural networks in the brain. Okay, and of course each neural network is something symbolic to a new experience that you get in your actual world. Okay, and of course even if you take the millennial learners, of course the adult learners, so let us not be in an assumption, kind of false perception that they cannot receive new things. Okay. Okay, so there's one more thing. Yeah, I came up with one thing. So I started calling this brain as a social organ. It's a social organ. Because this brain always craves for the social contact. It always craves for relationships. It always craves for emotional connection. Okay? And why I'm telling all this, yes, as this brain, craves for this kind of emotional connect or social connect, yes, the learning process might be made very easy for these millennials in the classroom by, designing certain activities where there will be some kind of social gathering not social gathering is not that social gathering, but might be some kind of group discussions, presentations. Okay. And I think you all might be aware that the students, those who are not so serious or not so expressive in the classrooms, they are very active on Facebook. Yeah, they're very active on Facebook. Okay, might be that they are craving such kind of social connections or social experiences. Okay. Yeah, this is what, of course, certain inferences that we draw, particularly whatever the research so far done, in the area of neuroplasticity and its applicability in higher education. Okay. So one is, yes, it will help to create some kind of safe and trusting environment in the classrooms. The next, maintenance of an adequate level of arousal. See, when I say arousal, we have to be very careful, particularly like whenever we are facilitating some kind of presentations or group discussions, because sometimes certain students, they try to hijack the entire objective of learning in the classroom. They tend to be hyperactive. It's also kind of disorder. Okay, so that we have to frequently keep in check. Okay, and we should ensure that, yes, ideal level of cognitive arousal to be ensured in the classroom. Which means, of course, if there is no cognitive arousal, which means learning is not happening in the classroom. It's as simple as this, ECG, that's going like this, right? The waves, which mean the person is alive. If it goes like this, dead. So even if there is no such arousal, ideal level of arousal in our classrooms, then classroom is something. Okay. So then activation of both thinking and feeling that we do, of course through experience-based learning. And again, it's a kind of a language of self-reflection. So this actually touched my heart. I think actually I got this actually on Facebook, on WhatsApp message, it really touched my heart. See here, the first one it says, mom, to his child, pointing at the beggar, if you don't study, you will end up like him. The other expression is, if you don't study, you will be able to, if you study, if you study, you will be able to build a better world for him. See, so two different ways of saying, two different dimensions. So one dimension, of course, negatively re-engineers one's brain, and whereas the other one takes it positive. That's what here, mindful teaching is the need of the hour. So let's go with the mindful teaching whenever you go to class. You all ready? Okay. So now, shall we have some mindful learning for ourselves? Okay. So this is actually, on this, I've been working for past 7 or 8 years. Like how self-hypnosis, or we also call this as self-visualization, how it helps in reconstructing our cognitive patterns. Okay. So how it can actually positively impact our mind. Okay. And of course, I was also closely associated with Niman's paper, working on this positivism. Okay. And yes, we also conducted one small empirical study, and which also got published in I Am Shillong, that paper. Okay. So this self-hypnosis, the assumption of the self-hypnosis is wherein we give some kind of positive suggestions, auto-suggestions to our brain. Okay, so that becomes completely ingrained in our subconscious self. Okay, so see, now we go, and of course externally, consciously we go, and there is a lot of resistance from our subconscious self. If you have time now.
Yeah, we have. Please
Yeah.
continue.
It may take around 10 minutes.
No, yes, absolutely.
So, are you all ready for the experience?
Yes.
Okay. So now, just sit everyone comfortable. Just relax. Just hands on the lap. Don't close your legs. Please sit in your relaxed position. Yeah. Before that, I have a few instructions to give. See, it's actually the instructions would go on for 12 minutes. The instructions would go on for 12 minutes. And the time when the video starts, okay, so it will tell you what's happening to you. Just follow the instructions, and it will ask you to close your eyes. Very slowly close your eyes and follow the instructions. Okay. So probably after 3 or 4 minutes, you feel that you have lost your weight and you are floating. Some people, they feel like that. And those who are, and for some people, they also feel that their body has become so heavy, they can't even lift their hands. Okay? Yeah, that's a very good experience that you can have. No, don't need to be scared. Because I have, I experimented this on thousands of people. Yes, they have come up with very positive results. And again, like that, you start, because what happens, when you go there, you go to your, semi-conscious state, like deep sleep state, but still your mind will be following the instructions. And that's where lots of cognitive changes, happen. Okay? And after 12 minutes, you'll be asked to slowly open your eyes. Just abruptly don't open your eyes. Just rub your palms like this, take your eyes, very slowly open your eyes. Okay? And one more. Anybody scared?
No. We sleepwalk with lots of bodies.
It's okay. It did happen some times ago. You know, my dean actually came and sat in the class because at that point of time I was doing this. He came and sat and he started following the instructions. He just said, "Oh, Umashankar, even I want to do this." He sat. Okay, and he started following the instructions and after 12 minutes everybody got up, he did not get up. Okay, but he was snoring. So very gradually I went and just gave him a tap and then and it came very private to me and asked, "Umashankar, do you like snore?" I said, "No sir." So nothing wrong. If you're snoring, fine. Not a problem. That's a natural process, na? Okay.
Seriously, boys, that's why she's laughing.
Okay, shall we?
Yes.
Okay, it's nothing wrong, but one more thing, yes, some people, see after 2-3 minutes of following the instructions, some people may have headache, minor headache. Okay, if you have minor headache, what you do is, you don't follow the instructions, just come back to your normal state, open your eyes and just relax. If at all, if you have headache, but naturally it happens for some people because we call it as cognitive resistance. Okay, see you are feeding something positive to your mind, but your conscious mind is not ready to accept it. So there is a resistance and then some people have minor headache, so that's the reason. You don't insist to, continue. Are we all ready?
Yes.
Okay. So again, it's a voluntary basis. If you have any other apprehensions, okay, you can just relax like that. If you want to do, you can follow the instructions. Okay? So and one more, in case if anybody got this migraine problem, so please don't do that. Migraine people, so please, I know that all the researchers they have some migraine problem. So if you have migraine, please don't do. Refrain from that. Otherwise, because if you have migraine, then it gets aggravated.